If you're interested in an INEOS Grenadier, you may be wondering if it's better to buy an existing 2024 model or wait for the 2025s that are still yet to arrive to the US after the factory restarted production in January. I've been receiving comments about high inventories of unsold 2024s at US dealerships. I actually made a video about this topic 5 months ago when I surveyed inventory from US dealerships and at the time found over 800 Grenadiers available for sale. Well, it's 2025 now, and we're already 2 months into the year with the arrival of 2025 set to finally beginning arriving a little over a month from now. Yet I'm seeing over 1,300 2024 Grenadiers available for sale. Are sales slow? Maybe. Is the Grenadier a failure? Don't think so. Does INEOS Automotive have their work cut out for them? Most definitely. Hi, I'm Josh, and today we're going to talk about the unsold Grenadiers and what that might mean for you if you've been thinking about getting a Grenadier, and if you already bought one, what that might mean for us owners as we keep an eye on the health of INEOS Automotive as a company. As I mentioned, back in late September of 2024, I found just over 800 Grenadiers available for sale in the US by searching the dealer's inventory posted on their websites. Today I'm using that same method and I found just under 1,300 available Grenadiers and an addition of 5 new dealers contributing to this inventory. Again, this is US inventory. The lowest number at a dealer was showing was 16 Grenadiers and the highest that was showing was 104, with over half of the dealers showing more than 50 units available. Is that a lot? Yes and no. Is the Grenadier selling well? Again, yes and no. It all depends on who you ask and what you're comparing to. So let's take a look at what we know about sales data for the Grenadier. And you have to keep in mind that INEOS is a private company and they don't report their sales. Registration data is all that we have to go by, and there are companies that do this for a living. And so what I found was registration data for 2024 ending in 5,762 units sold. That's about 480 per month. Now, in that chart, I also listed a few other competitors, including the Mercedes G-Class, which sold 10,000 units last year, the Toyota Land Cruiser, which sold 27,000 units last year, the Land Rover Defender, 28,000, the Lexus GX, 32,000, Tesla Cybertruck sold 39,000, Ford Bronco, 106,000, and Jeep Wrangler, 150,000. And I kind of made an average monthly of that, and then also the number of dealerships that each brand has. And as you can see, there's only 27 at the time for 2024 Grenadier dealerships, and the INEOS dealers sold quite a few units per dealer on an average basis. So, again, you can skew data any way you like. This is just kind of grist for the mill. But remember that we originally heard that there was a target of 10,000 units to be sold in the US in 2024 from over 10,000 orders placed. Now, that was a very low bar, as anybody that wanted to put down a deposit could order a Grenadier. But more recently, Greg Ratcliffe mentioned that sales of about 8,000 units in the US for 2024, but here we're seeing just under 6,000. Which number's correct? Only INEOS knows. However, it doesn't much matter except that they have a little heartburn while their overproducing needs to be cleaned up of that unsold inventory for 2024, but that by no means makes the Grenadier any less of a success. It just means that they have their crystal ball that they used was a little off kilter. They only had customer deposits and orders to guide their decisions in the first year of production, and that likely didn't foresee completed orders not being accepted due to pricing or unmet expectations or other change of circumstances between the original time they deposited and almost waiting 2 years for the Grenadier to arrive. So, INEOS sold closer to 6,000 Grenadiers in the US in 2024. Aston Martin sold 1,100 units. Bentley Bentayga only sold 1,060. Low numbers don't instantly equate to failure. For INEOS to be a failure, you probably need to give them about 5 years to see how things progress, or don't. And I think they're on the right path, and mainly in need of just a few adjustments. in a lot of places. I mean, raise your hand if you saw an INEOS Grenadier ad on TV this past week. Anybody? So they've got their work cut out for them. But it's not just INEOS Automotive who needs to make adjustments. It's impossible to overlook the overall state of the auto industry, which is really struggling at the moment for a plethora of reasons. I mean, Stellantis, the maker of the Jeep Wrangler, posted a $1.8 billion loss in the second half of 2024. Polestar just reported a $1 billion loss and is now looking for a new CEO as the outgoing one leaves with his tail between his legs. And CEOs just tend to take the heat for all these predicaments. The German car market is having major issues. Some manufacturers like Mercedes have agreements with workers to not lay off workers until 2030. And they're having to resort to early retirement buyouts and other incentives in order to reduce staff. Porsche has painted itself into a corner with only 3 remaining internal combustion models on offer and is now scrambling to revive internal combustion offerings, both because of consumer demand, but also because of looming tariffs. They're set to reduce force by about 1,900 employees. Faith was shaken so badly that both the CEO and the CFO have recently been replaced at Porsche as well. In a survey of 108 car manufacturing plants in Germany and around Europe, only 69% were said to be operating at or above 80% capacity, which is generally considered the minimum level for profitability of a plant. Now, when we circle back to INEOS, we know that they were not immune to the choppy waters and had to halt production due to the insolvency of Recaro, which I still think ended up being a hidden blessing as it gave them the opportunity to let sales begin to catch up with unsold units. Did INEOS screw up? Well, they made some big estimates and maybe a bad guess or two. Deposits didn't turn into committed orders. They saw demand and that shot up the expectations to the top possible number, and pricing pressure was not on their side. The original estimate was starting at $59,000 and we ended up getting $73,000. Okay, but what does this mean? How can you benefit? If you're looking for a Grenadier, I've heard from customers who say they've contacted dealers who said list price, no discounts. But INEOS seems to be playing the sell at list price, but here are 5 incentives that you likely qualify for. The customer rebate, which is about $3,000. The conquest bonus, which if you have a Jeep, a Ford Bronco, a Land Rover Defender, any of these Lexus GX, if you have a registration to any of those vehicles, you'll get an extra $2,500 that you can stack on top of the other incentives. The accessories rebate is a $2,000 rebate on purchasing Grenadier accessories. Well, that would be things like side steppers or rock sliders or the luggage organizer or the load space, cargo space management system. All of those things that add up and they're dealer installed, $2,000 rebate goes against that. There's a military rebate of a couple of $1,000s for people who are currently in the military. There's a first responder rebate for people in Southern California that either were first responders or impacted by the wildfires. And they have financing offers of 2.9% subsidized interest rate. And some dealers are offering special lease deals, some as low as $750 a month on a Grenadier. And of course, these are select base model Grenadiers, but still, there are ways to get a good price on a Grenadier without necessarily negotiating a price, because it seems that they don't want to really step off of their list pricing model. Some dealer websites illustrate these dealers stacked with incentives showing you reduced price off list without technically calling it a discount. And incentives only apply to the in-stock 2024 units that are currently set to end on the end of March. The beginnings of the 2025s are already on the water and are set to begin arriving stateside at the end of March, early April. That should only up the incentives for the remaining 2024s, also noting that the MSRP is $2,000 higher on the 2025s. So, should you wait for a 2025 or pull the trigger now? I still maintain that now is your best chance for getting an INEOS Grenadier at the lowest possible price. If you can find a vehicle on the ground at a dealer that matches what you are looking for with the options and color, you can take advantage of the available incentives and get a good deal on a Grenadier. It sounds like they'll have incentive programs rather than negotiated price discounts in hopes of protecting their price integrity, but it's sort of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other, since in the end you're paying a lower price, but I suppose it's all about appearances. Keep in mind that the model year 2025 will be short and that you won't see these incentives on the 25s. Model year 2026 for European cars generally begins production in August or September, since cars have to take a 6-week boat ride to get it over stateside before being trucked around the country to dealers. And that will also come with 2026 pricing increases. It's unknown whether INEOS will make changes to the Grenadier in the coming years. In terms of style, I'm thinking that that's a long way off because it's destined to become a classic if they don't mess with the exterior design. I don't think there's any reason that they would do that. When it comes to function, sure, the software can use a little help. HVAC system could use a little review. But overall, it's minor compared to all of the decisions and efforts that went into making the Grenadier as good as it is already. Decisions need to be made on the direction of the Grenadier. Will they go upmarket with on-road creature comforts, or stay true to off-road with things like floors that you can hose out and manual seats that are low-tech-ish? Although no car is really low-tech in 2025, which I know disappointed some owners who are ready at the wrench. So what do you think? Is INEOS in trouble? Leave a comment and join the discussion. Should the dealers be handing out bargains left and right, or holding their ground and staying true to playing the we sell at list price game, where the discounts come from incentives and rebates and subsidized low interest rates? I don't think INEOS is likely to let this oversupply scenario happen again. And once the 2024s are sold down, you can probably expect much lower supply on hand with customer orders filling the balance, leaving an impression of limited availability, as I think that's what is helpful to their luxury image that they seem to want. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.